A lot of federal retirees think the hard part is getting to retirement, and it's not. The reality is the hard part is what happens in the first bad market after you retire. So if you're pulling money from your TSP at the wrong time, one ugly stretch where your balance drops 20 to 30% can do permanent damage to your lifestyle. You could be forced to sell low just to pay your bills, your withdrawals suddenly feel too high, and your whole plan starts to feel shaky. And I see this over and over working with federal employees in their late 50s and early 60s who are right at the edge of retirement or they just left federal service. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 big mistakes I see federal retirees make with their TSP and show you a simple way to get things set up so you aren't forced to sell low in a crash, you don't pay more tax than you need to, and you don't leave a mess for your spouse if something happens to you. I'm Tom, a fee-only retirement planner and founder of GT Wealth. And over the years, I've found your situation is very different from a private sector retiree because under FERS, you already have a lifetime pension. And when you add Social Security, you've got a built-in paycheck before we even touch your TSP. And because of that, it changes how we should invest your TSP in retirement. So let's start with the first mistake. Mistake number 1 is treating your TSP like it's the whole plan. And here's what I mean. A lot of people decide on their TSP funds based only on age or on fear. They say things like, I'm 60, I'll just pick an L fund and call it good. Or I hate seeing losses, so I'm putting everything in the G fund. And the problem is that approach ignores everything else. Your pension, your Social Security, and what you actually plan to spend. For most federal retirees, the pension plus Social Security is your base paycheck. The TSP is the money that has to cover the gap and last 20 to 30 years. If you only stare at the TSP and don't look at the full picture, you can go too conservative and quietly lose buying power, or you can go too aggressive and freak out in the first real downturn. Now, in a second, I'll show you how to line up your TSP with your actual retirement paycheck. But first, let's talk about the mistake that causes even good portfolios to blow up when the market drops. Mistake number 2 is taking more market risk than your retirement paycheck can handle. And this is where something that looks fine on paper can still go wrong. So let's use some numbers. Say you've got about $1.2 million across your TSP and IRAs. You need about $60,000 a year from your investments. So that's a 5% withdrawal rate. Now, imagine you retire and in your first few years, the market has a rough patch. Your 1.2 million falls to around 800,000, but you're still pulling that 60,000 a year. That's what's called sequence of returns risk. And all that means is if you get the bad years at the beginning of your retirement while you're taking money out, you can't wait for it to come back the same way you could while you were still working. 2 retirees can both get the same average return over 25 years, but the one who gets the bad years first while taking money out is the one who's most at risk of running out of money. So when we build a TSP allocation, we're not just asking what return can this get, we're asking if this drops 20 to 30%, does your plan still work? And can we protect the next few years of withdrawals so you're not forced to sell low? Now, in a minute, I'll show you how the 5-year sleep at night bucket does that. But before we do that, we need to talk about the other thing that can eat into your retirement nest egg, and that's taxes. Mistake number 3 is ignoring taxes and which accounts you pull from first. Most federal retirees are thinking about how they should invest their TSP. Or should I roll it out or should I leave it? And very few are thinking, if I pull from the wrong account first, will I push myself into a higher tax bracket for no reason? Because that's what exactly happens. Here's a simple example. Let's say your pension and Social Security already put you close to the top 12% federal tax bracket. Now you decide, I'll just take all $60,000 I need each year from my TSP. That $60,000 goes on top of your pension and Social Security. And very quickly, part of that money gets taxed at 22% instead of 12%. And over a 20 or 30-year retirement, that difference adds up. But if instead you take from the TSP, you take some from a taxable account and some from a Roth account you built up over time, you may be able to keep more of your income in the lower brackets. So this mistake is not having a basic order of operations for withdrawals and Roth conversions. It's not about knowing any fancy tax tricks. It's just having a simple plan so you're not accidentally giving the IRS more than you need to. Now, in a second, I'll show you how this fits into a bigger framework, but first we have to talk about what happens if the money person in the relationship isn't there. Mistake number 4 is assuming you or your spouse want to manage this all by yourselves forever. I found over the years, in most couples, there's one person who naturally becomes the money person. They handle the bills, the investments, and big financial decisions. The other spouse usually has a general idea of what's going on, but they're not the one logging into the accounts and they're not the ones reading the statements when the markets are going crazy. Even if you enjoy this stuff, I'd have you ask, if I weren't here, does my spouse actually want this job? Would they know who to call if something happened to me? Would they rather have a clear written plan and a relationship with a professional now, or try to find someone while they're grieving? I've had surviving spouses reach out, staring at an account that just dropped a couple $100,000, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do alone. And that's a brutal position to be in. So after this video, I'd encourage you to have a 15-minute conversation with your spouse and answer these 3 questions. If I weren't here, who would you call about our money? Do you want to be the one managing everything, or would you rather have a guide? And would we rather set that relationship up now or wait until something bad happens? A lot of my clients realize in that one conversation, we don't actually want to be our own money manager forever. So if this resonates with you, let me show you a simple way I line this up for federal retirees so they can actually sleep at night. And we do this by turning everything into a simple framework I use with my clients. I call it the Sleep at Night TSP plan, and it has 3 parts. Map your floor and your gap, build your 5-year sleep at night bucket, and add a basic tax and withdrawal order game plan. So stick with me here, because this is where a lot of people realize they've been guessing on how to structure their retirement income. First, we need to see what's already covered and what isn't. So write down your pension estimate, write down your Social Security estimate, then write down what you actually plan to spend each month after taxes. The difference between what comes in and what goes out is the gap your TSP and other savings need to cover. Now, once you see that number, you can figure out roughly what percentage you'd be pulling from your savings each year and whether that feels comfortable to you if markets get choppy. This is where we answer the question, is my TSP trying to do too much? Next, we build your 5-year sleep at night bucket inside the TSP. This is how we protect you from that early retirement bad market combination we talked about earlier. So here's the idea. Take about 5 years worth of withdrawals that you expect to need from your investments and keep that amount in more conservative TSP options. So usually that will be some mix of the G fund, F fund, or the L income fund, depending on your situation. And the rest of your TSP can be invested more for growth in the C, S, and I funds or an age-appropriate L fund. Here's a quick example. If you need about $60,000 a year from your investments, 5 years is about $300,000. That $300,000 is your sleep at night bucket. The rest can work for long-term growth. Now, many ask, well, why 5 years? Well, for some, it could be 3 years, and others, it could be 5 years. But overall, it's just a practical way to say, let's protect the next several years of spending, so if markets get rough, you're not forced to sell your growth investments at the worst time when the markets are down. So what happens is when markets fall, you're drawing from the stable bucket and not your growth bucket. The growth bucket is left alone to stay invested for the long haul. That's how you keep the plan intact through a crash instead of reacting in the middle of it. The last piece is layering taxes and withdrawal order on top. Now, we touched on this earlier, but let's dig more into it. Remember, most of your TSP is pre-tax. You'll pay taxes when you take the money out. At some point, you have to start required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Those are forced withdrawals, whether you need the money or not. And the order you draw from TSP, IRAs, Roth, and taxable accounts can change how much tax you pay over your lifetime. So your plan should answer a few basic questions. In the early years of retirement, do we pull mostly from TSP or mix in taxable and Roth? Do Roth conversions make sense for us in low income years or before RMDs start? Or how do we avoid accidentally bumping ourselves into higher tax brackets when we don't need to? You don't need some complex tax strategy here. You just need a clear, simple plan that fits your spending, your income, and your goals. So if you're a federal employee within about 10 years of retirement, or maybe you're already retired and you want to see what this looks like with your numbers, click the link below the video, set up your free retirement call, and we'll see if we'd be a good fit to help. And if you're not ready for that yet, I'd encourage you to watch this next video right here on which retirement account you should withdraw from first. I'll show you how the order you pull from your TSP, IRAs, and Roth can save or cost you a lot in taxes over your lifetime. So click here to watch, and I'll see you over there.